Welcome to the Proactive Prevention Podcast with your host, Jim Mothersbaugh Jr. That's me, Jimbo in stereo. Are you ready to take proactive steps to shield your life and those around you from the impact of drugs, alcohol, and other harmful substances? If so, you're in the right place. Our mission is to empower and educate through compelling conversations with a diverse range of voices, from teens and parents to educators, medical professionals, and law enforcement, and more. Join us for in-depth interviews, real-life stories, and behind-the-scenes insights from our Road Radio USA school assemblies and the Proactive Prevention Podcast studio. At Road Radio USA, we're dedicated to creating engaging, impactful prevention education that inspires positive change. The Proactive Prevention Podcast is here to support anyone navigating the challenges of substance abuse, whether directly or through loved ones. Our goal is to provide the tools and knowledge needed to make informed, healthy decisions and to foster a community of empowered individuals who lead by example. Tune in, stay informed, and let's work together to create a healthier, addiction-free future for everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Proactive Prevention Podcast, where we share compelling stories of personal transformation and triumph. In today's episode, we have a truly remarkable guest, Elizabeth Douglas, who has faced profound challenges and emerged stronger on the other side. Elizabeth's journey from addiction and incarceration to a life renewed by faith and community is both inspiring and humbling. Her story is a testament to the resilience of the human spirit and the power of hope and redemption. Join us as we dive into Elizabeth's transformative journey and explore how her experiences have shaped her new life. Hi, this is Jimbo in stereo. Today we're interviewing Elizabeth Douglas, and we're talking today all about her story. And that's what it's all about, okay? All about preventing underage drinking and drug use. Elizabeth, why don't you go ahead and tell your story to all of our great listeners today?
Hi, everybody. I'm Elizabeth, and I'm here in the town of Williamsport. Actually, this is my hometown. This is where I was born, and oh man, I love my hometown. My dad struggled. He had to do a lot of overtime. We missed him when he was gone, and you know, he was really tired from all the work that he had done, and he was really grouchy, and he'd start having a couple beers that night here and there, and then he started, drinking a lot. Now, mind you, he had been drinking probably my whole life, but I never noticed. So, and I was older now too. I was probably like 6 or 7. And when he would drink, oh my gosh, he was in such a good mood. We would have so much fun. We would, we'd go to the river lot and, go swimming or tubing for hours or hiking in the woods, seeing bears. And that was all great. But, there was my poor mom who, did all the work in the house and had us 2 kids and, barely had enough money for groceries. I mean, $25 a week was their budget. And we ate a lot of, we had a garden, is what she did. A big garden. And, there's my dad drinking more. And, just watching the effect that it had on my mom. And it started, I started feeling depressed. Well, I didn't know that I was depressed then. I was sad, because I'd see my dad. I'm like, Mom, he's over there having so much fun. Why don't you have a drink? Just unwind, sit down. And she's visibly shaken. I'm not quite sure when my dad quit drinking at that time, but he took a fifth. He wanted to die. He ran out to like this creek and by himself. And I'm not sure his exact words, but he cried out to Jesus. And my dad, I think they went to church, but they didn't talk about it. Like, they just went to church on Sunday, and my dad didn't ever talk about Jesus. But he cried out to Jesus. And he said he opened his eyes, and he saw the whitest, brightest light. And he said it was in the shape of a human form. And he said he could barely stand up. He felt so weak, but he was trying to stand up because he wanted to throw that bottle. And he did. And that's when he came back to the house. And my mom said he was literally white as a ghost and stone cold sober. And I guess that's when he quit drinking for a while. I got introduced, started hanging out with this one girl. And she grew up in the country. And there was country boys. And, some people, you live in the country, you're drinking when you're 12. But I got introduced to alcohol. And pretty much, I had some beer, maybe just a couple times, like 2 or 3 times. But then somebody gave me a shot. And it was on and popping. I'm talking 2 shots in. I was free. I was completely free. It was like every nerve in your, because when you have anxiety, how every nerve in your chest, you can just feel it, like heat emanating off of you. It was gone instantly, and instantly you're happy. You're like, oh, what can I do for you? Oh, hey, and you're just all the things you wish you could do, but you're living in fear and anxiety, all balled up, taking on other people's stuff, and you're young, you don't know how to deal with that. I was 16 years old, and I met a boy from the other school, and I got pregnant. Now, mind you, my mother was I don't know if she was the director or the next person of Birthright, which is what is that? It's encouraging women to keep their baby. They give you food, cribs, whatever you need, clothing, stuff like that. Had all the, little sizes of the babies there. I knew all about birth control. Didn't even think about it. Because the world has my mind going crazy because I have no grounding. Now, we went to church, and I believed, I do believe, but back, I believed at that point that all of that was true. But then the world, and I started looking up at people and thinking, well, they follow Jesus and they're doing that stuff. So, and you're young and it feels good. Feels way better than trying to follow Jesus. What? Talk about work. But I had a baby. Now, before I had my son, I didn't drink a lot. Like maybe every other weekend, And just one day, like just river lot, whatever. I wasn't an alcoholic at that point. Well, I was. I just didn't really confirm it. But I had my son, and I love this man. And 6 days later, he had another baby. Then, 2.5 months later, he had another baby. And boy, did that hurt. But I stayed. And I love those children. I used to go, my mom bought me a big stroller, and I would go get them. And we would visit them. You know, I was friends with their moms. Because he duped us all. But I thought, you know, I want a father for my kids. So, you know, I lived in a delusion. And at some point, I think, and then I had another son. I had another son a year and a half later. So at this point, I have my 2 little boys, and my youngest son was born, and I was 19. And I had given his dad some money to get me like a little pack and play. But it was one that had like a bed on the top too, and then it had a changing table thing, and it was like $120. He never came home. He was always home. We got a little place and we lived together. What aren't we supposed to do? Live together. Doomed from the start. But I tried. By the way, it does not work. Ever, because I tried. Didn't work. But, you know, and I thank God for this, that I was just done. It's almost like I was just waiting, like that you don't do. I was living on welfare. I had $450 a month. My rent was $325. My mom was helping me buy groceries, all the toiletries. You're looking for a job. Finishing your GED. You know, and my mom believed in him. She prayed for him. She still does, and he's still out there. I can't believe he's alive. And his oldest son has not given up on him. Still, to this day, prays for his father for the crack addiction to stop, because his dad, oh man, when he's sober. But now he's done all these things, he just, you know, he can't let it go. He doesn't have Jesus. Before I had my daughter, I had hurt my back. I forgot about this part. I had hurt my back. And I really hurt it. It looked like an egg underneath my spine. I had a little kid on my hip, and I went to use my other leg and just like booped her chair. But oh my gosh, I instantly was falling over, and I felt it swelled up. And I was on the couch for 2 weeks, and they gave me hydrocodone. But for real, it barely lasted 2 hours. The pain was so bad, and I had little kids at home. You know, what could I do? And I didn't know about that stuff, and I wasn't misusing that at the time. And I called them, and I told my doctor, and this is a doctor, he birthed all my kids. I'd had him for about 12 years at the time. My mom loved him. You know, he had come up to my mom's house. My son has like, I want to say like emotional issues. And, he's socially awkward, I guess I want to say. And he would come up, and he took my son fencing, and he'd come up and see, because my son had a chicken. His name was Mark. And it was like his little therapy. He loved it. And the doctor would come up there, so he didn't think twice about helping me out. And that was when the opioid crisis began. It was before Oxycontin. It was before that, like years before that. And so then I was still on it when I was pregnant with my daughter. And at that point, I was like, oh gosh, I'm pregnant. My back hurts worse. So I took 2. And then I'm like, oh my gosh, I have a little bit of energy. Oh, so it does. And I'm thinking it's just taking the pain away. I didn't think about what it was doing mentally. I'm just like, oh my gosh, that's what it feels like to not have pain. That's what I'm thinking. And, I'm like cleaning. I'm, taking my boys to the park. And wait a minute. I'm not as sad. Oh, yeah. Probably because I'm getting out more in the sun and stuff, but from getting out more, then I'm going to bed at night and the medicine's wearing off, and I'm like, oh my gosh, how am I going to get up in the morning? I'm huge and pregnant. Blah. Now, mind you, I'm pregnant, and my doctor's prescribing this to me. And so I have my daughter, but I breastfeed. So she didn't go through withdrawals. And I breastfed her till she was 2 years old. And I wasn't my worst on pills, but I was drinking 40s too. And I was breastfeeding. Not even thinking about it. Like, I'm thinking it's my body, God made it, it's filtering it out. And at that time, it wasn't really talked about that breast milk could be affected by that. And if I heard about it, it was like, oh, just, a little bit. But my doctor's giving me medicine. It must not be able to go through because he's not telling me not to breastfeed. So I didn't think about it. Well, there's another component to my story I want to add, just because there's an event that's going to happen. So, all during this time, since I've had my sons, I didn't have a lot of money. Now, mind you, my mom bought the kids clothes, what she could, which she did go overboard sometimes, but I wanted my kids to be cool like the other kids and always have Nike and the Jordans and stuff like that. So I would just take it. I just took myself a big bag and just walked through there and left. And I always made sure I looked nice, so nobody would think twice about it. I'd speak to everybody on my way out. And I got caught when my daughter was 2 years old. So I got 30 days. I got 30 days in jail. And I had my own house at the time, but 30 days in jail, I'm not going to have a house. I'm not. My mom can't pay my rent. Her and my dad, they have their own lives, and they just couldn't. So, but I wasn't really thinking about all that because I thought, oh, you know what, they'll just pay it. Or I'm coming home in 30 days. So, there's my mom at home with my 2-year-old daughter, listening to her scream. Oh my God. between her and my dad. And my dad, who's got to work 12 hours, and he works 12 hours, 7 days a week, dead serious, for like 32 years to provide for my family and my kids, because I was selfish, and I was just trying, I was just trying to feel better. I was just trying to feel better. I couldn't figure out what is it? How are these people happy? And then I'm like, I'll tell you how they're happy, because they're liars or they're on something. Period. So my mom has to go through that. And at that point, I know she never hated me, but I'm pretty sure I sickened her. If I didn't, she's a saint, because that sickens me. It's hard to even think about. And that doctors still to this day are doing this to people, not thinking about that. Or they'll just tell you, oh, we'll do a slow morphine drip, and we'll wean them off of it. What? Oh my gosh, you've already changed the chemical makeup of their brains. You just rewired it. You broke it. So we get through that. But my mom, I forget what happened. I ended up being there. Oh, I thought I was getting out 30 days. But my mom, she either called my probation officer or she wrote her a letter. Not sure which, telling her, please keep her. Do not let her out. Because my mom was in the house. And she saw the ad, because I didn't do laundry. I just go take more stuff. I literally had probably $10,000 to $20,000 worth of clothes of my kids and I's in a pile in the attic. I heard her say the other day, she's like, that really upset her, because she thought she bought it all. But now she'll listen to this podcast to find out that, she knows that I got caught stealing, obviously, because I went to jail 7 times for that. So, needless to say, I was feeling really heavy about the things that I did, and when I came home, I just couldn't handle it, Now, I'm going to take 10 years off of that. So just let's go from 20 to 30. All those years I was homeless, living friend to friend. I was like living friend to friend. And I ended up going to jail again. So I'm about 30. And I think I was maybe there 6 or 9 months. And I came home. And you're feeling great when you first get out. And you're like, I went to church a couple times. I feel like, I'm feeling really good about that. And, everybody that loves me is a Christian. And God says to forgive. But to forget is something different, And I didn't think of that, because I just thought, Jesus says forgive. So we're going to be all good, because I've cleaned myself up, and here we are, guys. And my welcome was not that at all. I said, Mom, I'm home. And she's like, okay, yeah. And you're not coming here. You're not disrupting these kids' lives. Do you know the crap that I've dealt with, and the emotional trauma and things I do every single day to protect their hearts? you're not coming here. But that was like, again, I wanted it. I couldn't take that feeling. I couldn't take it. So what did I do? Got another drink. And boy, did I get another drink. It was snowing, and somebody called the ambulance, or no, it was the police, because I had passed out in 2 feet of snow in somebody's front yard, and they thought I was dead. And went to they took me to the hospital. I woke up 2 days later. It was a Sunday. And now that I think about it, I really am upset at the Williamsport Hospital about what they did, because it was a Sunday. So it took them that long to get me sober. I wonder if I could call them and find out what my alcohol level was. It had to be 0.3 something or 4. But I woke up and I must have got sick all over my clothes. I had but it was August. So, but they knew that I was homeless, and I said I'm staying with a friend near this pizza place, and it was a ways away. And they were like, okay, well, we're letting you go. And she told me to go over and sit at the bus stop. It's Sunday. And I sat out there for 3 hours, and not one single person said, can I help you? Until this one old man came out, and he saw me, and he sat down beside me, and he asked me if there was something he could pray for me about. But it was like I had shields up. I was like, well, you can pray for me that I could get home okay, because I needed a ride home. So there was my little way of, getting in there. And he did take me home. And I was in and out of jail then for the next 8.5 years. So I'm 39 at this time. I'm 39 at this time. And it got to the point where I was living in a nice place with this heroin addict. She got Social Security, and she had a part-time job. And her house was immaculate. It was beautiful. When I first went in her home, you know what she did? Washed my feet. Washed my feet. She did love Jesus. But she's battling her demons. But I thought that was I really felt her love. Who does that? Who washes your feet? Nobody else ever has. But I'm paying her with heroin. And then, I'm not paying for it. I have a boyfriend, air quotes, that is paying her for me to live there. I've got a big room, TV, nice bed, and her and I get along. We talk, we laugh. We just had such great stories for each other. We both lost our children, and we had that in common, and we bonded through that. But I couldn't afford the pills anymore. And I did try shooting it up once. My neighbor, she had diabetes, so she always shot herself up, but then she became a heroin addict, because she was addicted to Oxycontin through a car accident, like cut neck to butt. But 24 hours later was doing things with her husband. That's how good that Oxycontin made her feel. 24 hours later. What? But then now they don't give her that anymore, and she's permanently disabled and can barely stand. But anyway, she was like, just try, because she's like, you have to do a whole bunch. She's like, literally it was probably an eighth of an inch. I mean, it was like the tiniest little bit. Immediately. It was like the gates of hell opened up. I felt like my mouth was this big, like 10 inches around, and water. It was literally like you flushed the toilet. Water just out of me. Everybody was tripping. And I got no feeling from it. No feeling from it. Tell me that's the only time I ever did it. Because I swear that was evacuation. That will not come in. That way won't come in here. But I did start sniffing it. But that's where it all came to a crashing halt. I got caught at a local popular department store, the popular one, and I got caught in there, and I had heroin on me. It was mine, but not for me. I was taking it to somebody, and I saw them at the door, and I knew they were coming for me. So I just missed the checkout place, and I go over to the bathroom, and I decide, well, I'm getting high as a kite then. And I did a few of them, which, thank God, at that time was before fentanyl. But literally 6 months later, the fentanyl hit. I would be dead. I know this. God. I know what my purpose is. And we all have a mighty, mighty purpose. Like the mightiest purpose you can ever have is to share Jesus, because there is no other way. And I don't want this to be my forever. I know this is not it. And all these anxieties and fears, I don't have to live with these. I don't have to live with them. So, they catch me. I come out of the bathroom, and I go into to the office. But now I've got drugs on me. I don't know why I didn't flush them. So they actually left me alone in there, and I tuck them between the desk and the file thing, so they don't find them on me. But I know I'm going to jail, and I'm already on probation, and I've already had a violation. So, and this was like my 7th one. I knew I was going upstate. That the judge had already told me, come back here again, and you're doing state time. So that's why I thought, I'm just going to get high as a kite. I can't do this by myself. What? But God did this. Drum roll. I go to jail. And I hear all this chatter. These girls are all pissed off. They're talking about this drug court, this new program, and they don't want to be put on it. You're gonna get violated for every single thing, even stuff you don't do. You can't leave the county. You have to go to group 5 days a week. You have to go to probation every Monday. You have to go to a meeting every day for 90 days. You have to have a sponsor. You have to work the 12 steps. And, this one counselor, yo, dude, it's crazy. He knows when you're lying. And he will call you out to your face, dude. You don't want to go in there. He knows every time. And here this man had 30 years in recovery, and he's from Philly. Little about 5'4" white dude, skinny, from Philly. And he has 30 years sober. He was in a gang. He's been there. He's been there, done that. And when you're an addict, or I've learned not to say, "Hi, I'm Elizabeth, I'm an addict," because that's not what defines me. No way. I'm Elizabeth, and I'm the daughter of the King of the Most High. Jesus claimed me, not my addiction. Keep in mind, people, all this stuff, I don't live with that today. I don't live with any of that today. I mean, do I have like a reminder sometimes? Yes, I do. And I just have to remind myself, wait a minute. Oh, I'm washed white today. You can't come by here. And I'm always saying, not today, Satan, not today. Bye. So, I'm in jail. I hear about this drug court program. And I meet this girl next to me. She's my best friend to this day. She's my first friend. I cherish her dearly. The walk that we did together was just... And where we are today, it's crazy, crazy, crazy. But these events that I'm about to say are the steps. Doors opened, big ones. So I meet my friend, and instantly we're just chatty, we're talking, and she has some joy. She was on this drug court program, and she had relapsed. But she just was such a joyful person, and she wasn't letting that define her. She messed up. She wanted to be sober. She just sometimes just wanted to feel better. When you suffer from depression and anxiety, and you have your own life of stuff, just like I have my own, it's real easy to fall in that trap. I mean, like I said, it feels like a glimpse of heaven. It's the evilest door you can open. Seriously. And she's like, hey, because she had been on the drug court program, she had been going to the AA meetings. And she's like, hey, let's get out of here. Let's go to the AA meeting. I'm like, I had never been to one. I heard that, okay, they all go, but they still use, or they're all creeping on the girls. I hear about all those old timers. You got 30 years clean, but you're in here paying that girl with drugs or alcohol to be with you. Like a good 40%. I had no desire. I was like, you know what I mean? I just was like, that's not the answer for me. Whatever. But I go. And I meet this lady. She's probably 72, retired teacher. So I want you to picture the outfit of a teacher. It's pink, and she's 72, so go with that era. And she just starts speaking, and it was like, where did you come from? Like, She was very well versed in street, I should say, and just, well, I shouldn't say, just different. She was just different, very personal, personable. She just could talk to anybody, but I'm thinking to myself, what stupid story does she have? Like, come on, do you know what I've just been through? Like, do you know what baggage I got, lady? Get out of here. This lady coming up here in her fancy car with her little suit and stuff. She even got her hair done and got highlights and stuff. Come on. She's got it all going on. What could she know? But she proceeds to tell her story. And her story was like a bombshell. God smack to the 10th degree. This woman was found in LA. The fire department thought it was a dead body. They were hosing off maggots. That's how filled with maggots she was. And cleaned her up. She went to a psych ward. Mind you, her son was 10 and her husband was here. Now, she was a teacher. She was a teacher who loved Jesus. And this is happening to her. She comes back. Husband says, I'm not taking you back. Get yourself together. I don't know where she stayed, but she continued following. Thank God she had Jesus to cling on to. It wasn't easy. She said the hardest part for her was swallowing that she wasn't allowed to even see her son, and that she had a husband, but she hadn't been with him like 7 years. She was really struggling with that. And you want to drink. You want to get those feelings away from you, but she had Christ to lean on. Things were different. That's what I saw that was different in her. That was the different. She had this confidence and just such, when she spoke, it's like what I imagined when Jesus would talk, what they said, like when he would talk with such authority, and when he looks at you, he knows you. It was like, I felt like she knew me. Because her story was meshed with mine so much. I felt seen for the first time ever in my life. I felt seen. I felt equal. I felt like I finally can blurt out all this crap. I can get this off my chest. So we leave. And I heard everybody talking crap about this lady. Oh, she won't let you date for a year. She makes you sit with her. You have to meet every week. You have to go to a meeting every day for a year. Ew, she's such a witch. And now, mind you, picture Jesus' shield. Boom. Arrows. They were all, I didn't hear none of that. All I could think was, I gotta get her. Yes, I need a mighty sword. It's like putting on the armor. I need that piece. I need this piece. But I'm going upstate. But I heard about the drug court program. So I thought, man, people are like, well, I'm supposed to be going upstate, and I applied for it. Maybe they'll do that program for you instead of sending you upstate. I mean, it's worth a try. I'm like, but I've got caught 7 times. Like, I just got arrested. I was out 3 days, drunk again, out 3 days stealing. I was on an ankle monitor, still doing stuff. They're not going to do this for me. But it was like my mind only thought about that for 1 second. It was all those thoughts literally happened in like 2 seconds. But I just started writing. And I wrote a 6-page letter, and I told them my story. And I told them how I met this lady. before I... Let me back it up a little bit. So, the AA meeting. Next day, boop, boop. Guess what day it is? Sunday, church. Doot, 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 doot. My friend's like, come on, it's, most everybody went to church because you were able to get out. And they mentioned this girl, like, oh, I think Miss, let's call her Velna because it's something like that. Miss Velna's coming and she's bringing this speaker. And when they said the girl's name, I was like, wait a minute. I grew up with that girl. She's from like one of the biggest drug families here in town. And she used to do those things too. And she's mean. She's got a lot of kids. Like, no way she's coming to church to lead us. I gotta go. Okay, so I said, I heard the story about the girl and I said, oh, I gotta go. So I was going initially just to hear that to kind of be nosy, and plus like, what? She gave her life to Jesus? No, I gotta see this. No way. Yeah. So I go, and like I said, it was like God kicked the door down for this one. And I go in and I meet the lady, and I'm telling you, I'm a crier. I sit down next to her and she reaches over and she touches my hand and she says, how are you, sweetie? It was like she already knew. Oh, I mean, I'm in jail. Of course, you already know we're jacked up. And I blubber cried. But as the tears, it was like I was being washed away. She literally was like, and I know you're da 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 da, and I know da 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 da. She spoke my life about how I loved Jesus when I was young and how he tells us to come to him like a child. The innocence. I'm telling you that I died for your sins. I conquered the grave. I rose again so that you may have eternal life. And what do I ask you to do? Just share the good news. Share the good news. Give me your anxieties and your worries and fears. So just that little 2-minute talk with that lady it was God. He gives us those words at the right time. And boy, I picture it being almost like being baptized, imagine being baptized by Jesus. The confirmation there, and it was like I was reminded and I believed the truth of what the Bible says about me. It was like I realized, forget all y'all. Forget my mom. She's mad at me. I can't work on her. She loves Jesus. It was just like a light clicked on. And I knew my children were all right. I never feared for that. I honestly never did. My mother is a good caretaker. She's the best. Literally. And my dad, a wonderful provider. Mind you, he was never at home. He worked 7 days a week, 12 hours a day. But my mom and, my other family members, I was never fearful of that. But then, I realized, here I am in this place with all these people, and I was living in a ball in my room, me and my friend, because what's everybody talking about? Or, I don't want to get in that conversation, or I don't want them to, who am I going to talk to? But then if I talk to them, I can't talk to them. And then if I sit over here with them, I can't sit over here with them. And, we're going to, we went to church. What do we talk about? Is spreading the good news and speaking to people and have conversations. And, you can't talk to people without, or you can't speak into people's lives, without getting to even know them. How can you tell them something if you don't even know what's going on? So that was Sunday. And I just felt different. I was in a good mood. Her and I started playing games. We came out of our room more. We started watching TV and now mind you, we didn't pick up our Bible. We were reading a vampire books series, passing them back and forth. But, God works on that. And I'm still working on that. I struggle, and that you can pray for me for that, to actually read it for myself. I've read certain books of, like Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. Genesis, I read that. Revelation, I gotta be honest, terrified to read it. And I don't know what I'm afraid of. Like, what, being so afraid that you gotta do everything correct now? You think that's, but that's what I thought. But, so, I went to church that day. The next day, Monday, I wake up and I'm like, whoa, this is a different kind of morning. I was able to take a breath. Like, I'm light. I don't have anxiety today. And it weirded me out that I was actually mad because they kept trying to give me my medication. And I'm like, no, I don't want anything. You don't understand. I was abusing my depression meds, which do nothing but put you to sleep. But I don't want anything. I don't even know what I need because I was drinking and taking pills. And then I'm wondering why, the depression medicine doesn't work. And I'm on 50 different kinds because they're probably whatever. But I thought that they put them in my food because it was that drastic that I thought, oh. So I got a Q-tip and swabbed the inside of my mouth. And I put it in an envelope, and I was going to save that for when I came home and was going to give it to my PO and tell them, I want to know if they were giving me shit in my food, because I'm going to have a case, because I don't want to take any medication I need to get my head right. So I wrote the 6-page letter to the judge, my probation officer, and West Branch Drug and Alcohol. It was like, well, it's God working. He opened their ears and opened their eyes. And I have talked to all of them since then about my letter. And it really touched them, and they really heard my words, and they heard my plea, and they believed me. And that was the first time, because like I said, I was a liar, and I was a thief, and an alcoholic, and a drug addict. And I say was, because I'm not today. Only by the grace of God, I owe him everything. But they heard me, like I said. And when I got the news, I just couldn't believe it, because I was going to be doing 7 to 10 years. That's what I was looking at. And I was so excited, but I couldn't get into the YWCA Liberty House program because they read about me in the paper. It was like homeless woman, da 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 da. And the head lady read about me and told them she is not coming here. So after my first interview, I was denied. I'm like, man, I am going to be in here for 7 to 10 years. I'm going to be in this stupid county prison because I don't have an address. I don't know a single person to call. I've got a lot of friends now, so I know I better never be homeless again. But, you know, there I was, just, again, taking my will back, not thinking, God says, he promises. And he asked me one thing, follow me. Turn away. Follow me. Relax, Elizabeth. Take a breath. Give something over. One thing. But like 2 months later, I mean, in those 2 months, because I was coming out more, you know, I would talk to the guards and I would see my counselor when she was between appointments. She'd come out. I mean, we would always talk. Music would come on, and we'd be like singing or, you know, playing a game, and they'd come over and talk to us, and we got to know each other. And my counselor wrote a letter to the YWCA for me. She didn't tell me. And she sent this woman, Diane, to meet me, told me she would take responsibility for me, and asked me if I would follow the rules. And I killed them rules. I crushed the rules. I did. I felt really accomplished when I lived at the Y. But that's only like half of what God did. This is all in like a year span, these big doorbusters. Now, I'm out of jail. I'm going to meetings every day. I met like hundreds of new people and people I call friends. And I have the nerve to sit home lonely sometimes. Like, really? Really? But it was the going home at night. You know, and I lived with, there's kids there. You know, some people have their kids. And as much as I was trying to live in that world, like my world, you know, just focusing on my recovery and the meetings and, you know, going for ice cream with my friends or boating with some new friends and actually living, because I never really did that. Like, I had a baby when I was 17 and during my partying years, I thought, well, since I missed my teen years, now it's okay. I just switched them up. I'll learn. Oh boy. Yeah, you did. Yeah, you did. So I was missing my kids a lot. Now, I'd say maybe 6 months into it, my mom, you know, started inviting me up for dinner. You know, she'd ask me if there was anything I needed, like some food or anything. She took me to get I lost everything, but the girls at the Y, man, they all hooked me up. I had 4 pairs of shoes, like 7 pairs of jeans, probably 20 shirts, every bath item, and it was all these homeless girls giving me all their stuff, happily, so excited for me. Some of the most gracious people had nothing and were willing to give it to me. I didn't even know them. They didn't know what I did. Because, you know, you're thinking about that. Like, oh, if they knew what I did, they wouldn't be so nice to me. But I've gotten better with that over time because, you know, I got to remember who is in charge, or, you know, who I'm worried about, and that's Jesus, and he's forgiven me, and he says others are supposed to look at me like that too. So I'm really missing my kids. Now, mind you, my mom's had my daughters their whole life, and they were Okay, so I've been sober 10 years, and they're 18 and 21. So they were like 7 and 10 at this time. And my mom I'd just been home 6 months. I'm living at a homeless shelter. And my mom talked about how hard it was going to be for her. But she knew that I was doing the right things. And she prayed, she kept a diary. And she prayed these 10 things for me every single night. Every single night. And they've all been answered except for a husband who loves Jesus more than me. And so she knew, I believe she knew in her heart. And we had conversations about, I can't wait. Because you want to get your own place, you want to get a job, but it's slow down, remember, they've forgiven you, but they haven't forgotten. And not thinking how it would be on my daughters, But I did see them, and I called them. There would be periods when I'd get in trouble, and then I wouldn't call for a long time. But, I would go see them, and of course I was always high, so I was super happy, running around, They just couldn't understand why my mom wouldn't let me stay there. What do you mean? My mom's so much fun. Like I saw my dad. Just like that. But by the grace of God, they got to see something different. And an act of God. Here's another door. This one busted the whole house down. God made the decision for me to have my kids. And I get this thought in my mind because at the Y, there's this room. It's 2 bedrooms. And it had been empty because my friend moved out of it. It had been empty about a month or 2. And I thought, oh my gosh. What? Wait, God, what? Wait. And I went to my counselor and she's like, Elizabeth, we literally were just talking about how we wish that you could have your kids here because right now you are the only one deserving of that room. And we're purposely not giving it to other people because they don't deserve it. I called my mom. I was so excited. She was not excited. I mean, she said she had a peace about it, but it still was tearing at her soul. I'm a loose cannon. I was dangerous. But knowing Christ and seeing that I was fruitful, she gave it to God. I don't know how she did it. I'm talking about it right now. I forgot about that. Wow, she's a woman. But, and they came to live with me. Just 9 months into my sobriety. I mean, the AA meeting, the next day, boom, Jesus. 2 weeks later, the Y. 9 months later, my kid's back. 6 months later, I get my own apartment and I get a job. A year later, that counselor at the Y, Diane, the one that vouched for me. Now, mind you, when I got my place outside of the Y, it was only a 1-bedroom, but I had my bed in the living room, the girls had theirs. And Diane brought over some flowers. She came to see my place. And she's like, oh, I'm so dreading it. I'm moving to South Carolina with my sister. I was so sad to see her go, but I didn't see her every day anymore anyway. But she was moving to South Carolina. She's like, I'm trying to find somebody to rent mine. It was a 2-bedroom, Victorian downstairs apartment. When I tell you, it's like the Peter Herdicht house. You got these giant doors, you open it up, boom, red velvet carpet up, a huge, like, sweeping staircase that went all the way up 3 floors. Beautiful woodwork. A carousel horse in the foyer. It had a foyer. And I thought about it. I was like, Diane, do you think you could talk to the lady? She's like, actually, I was homeless, and this lady that I rent from was homeless, and I rent from her, and she said that she wants to help somebody who's been in the program and been homeless. But she said she charges $100 more, I'd have to pay $100 more. And my mom was like, oh, please, don't worry about it. Her dad and I will pay it. So I got to move to this wonderful apartment. And my son needed a 1-bedroom apartment because his brother was getting married and had moved out. He was paying like $1,000. He moved into that apartment for 6 more months. And then the apartment above me at the Victorian home comes for rent, and he moves upstairs for me. And then, it just kept getting better. I started going to a church, and one of the people there had I got in a relationship after 5 years. I think because my sponsor said wait a year. I believe it should be 10 to 20. When you're healing from so many scars like that, I don't know that I ever could get married. I mean, I would have to get like door knocked down, God, boom, shining lights. But this is where I made a mistake. We got a place together. Oh, it was so nice. And I don't any longer go to that church, but it was an elder and his wife who rented to us, unmarried couple. And he started using again and drinking again. And I mean, we had been together 4 years, and he was like through a year program. He knew the Bible like that. But he didn't know the Bible. You know what I mean? There's people that like, I can't tell you where any scripture really is. And I can only tell you like Genesis, Revelation, Exodus, Leviticus, Matthew, Mark, Luke, John. And he knew the Bible back and forth. And I thought that was my golden shining light. No. Sheep, wolf inside. But, and that was the only relationship I had since I've been sober in the 10 years. And it's now been 5 years since that, and I'm still single. But he had started drinking and using, and, what a reminder for me, though, to how good you can think you're doing. I thought he was doing great. But he relapsed during the fentanyl, and his choice was crack cocaine, and he didn't want me to know he was high because I'm sober, and I'm not gonna have it. And you're watching our 4 kids were there, 4 years old, 10 years old, 11 years old, and like 16 years old. And I work nights, and I got a call from my daughter screaming that the 4-year-old found his dad dying in the basement. And she had to call me for the address, and she had to run outside and look at the street because she couldn't remember even her own home address. The second call was to my mom. My mom, you did this in front of my mom. I knew it was over. I mean, not because, I know God will forgive you and you can work through that, but we're here on earth, people. And you just did that, and my parents came. and there's a 4-year-old, and there's my 16-year-old panicking, trying to keep the kids quiet and hugging them and trying, and there she is, scared crapless. So yeah, that ended, but it killed me. It really hurt me. I wouldn't say it killed me, but it took me back. It took me back a few steps. The church has just been wonderful, and I have met my Bible study friends, and even people that I just sat by, everyone that I have talked to. I can't say everyone, because there's never going to be a perfect church. There are some people that I don't get good vibes from, and that aren't very kind to me. Look right through you, and you can wave to them, and they just look right by you, But hey, that's what we're at church for, to be worked on, and, maybe sometime ask you, hey, make them say hi. But, so I got my kids, I got my kids back, and we got the new place. I live at my place that I live at now. I'm going to church, and I literally was thinking the other day, my Facebook, I have probably 700 people who are my brothers and sisters in Christ that I could literally call them and tell them all my gore, like, hey, I'm feeling this, I had this thought, and, it's just such an amazing connection. It's so freeing, and it helps me. Just, sometimes just knowing that you can have people to go to here on earth. That's something I need to work on, because I forget to go to God. Like go in the bathroom and just talk out loud. I'm probably going to have to talk out loud, because I forget, because it's like, the verbal part of it, you just need to spit it out sometimes. But yeah, so that's my life now. I actually have a daycare. People give me their children to watch, and they all know my story, but they've seen my life, and they've seen what Jesus has done for me, and I just can't tell you how crazy awesome it feels to worship and dance and sing with my grandchildren and these other children. It's like no other feeling. I can't describe it. I wish I could bottle it up. It's just such a magnificent change in my life. And I mean, really, I just urge people not to drink. I watch people drink and they're not alcoholics, and you change. You change. You talk more, you're happier, and that's not you. It's not you. But, yeah, so that's my story. Thank you guys so much.
Elizabeth. I don't know what to say. That was an awesome story.
Yeah.
Thank you so very much. So,
thank you.
Yep, you've done it.
Yeah, I'll have a headache
with our
later.
podcast. Thank you very much. Elizabeth's story of redemption and new beginnings serves as a beacon of hope for anyone facing their own struggles. Her journey underscores the incredible impact of faith, perseverance, and the support of a compassionate community. We hope her story inspires and uplifts you as much as it did us. Don't forget to subscribe to our podcast for more inspiring stories and conversations. Until next time, stay hopeful and keep striving for positive change in your life. Thanks for listening to the Proactive Prevention Podcast. Until next time, this is Jimbo in Stereo.